Hello friends, welcome to the Windmill. Welcome to a very special episode of Cartridge Appreciation. Now, as per the usual method of operations, I've selected a number of games. I'm going to be looking at the cartridges or discs, whatever they might be, and critiquing the artwork on the label. Now, you might be wondering why today's episode is so special. Well, if you read the title, you would know that it's Zelda month, and figured I should at least do one Zelda video, especially since my channel is named after a Zelda character. So, with that out of the way, let's get on to this very special Zelda month edition of Cartridge Appreciation. So our first game for the day is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Now, I will say that this label art is a significant improvement over the NES game, which I talked about on a previous video. And this is also the first Zelda cartridge to feature the text for the word Zelda that would become the text that Zelda still uses to this day. So what makes this better than the NES version? Well, the NES version just had some kind of coat of arms on it. It didn't really give you a good idea what the game was going to be about. This one here is a little bit better because it's a sword and a shield. It's not super self-explanatory, but it gives you at least some inkling of an idea of what the game's going to be like. At the very least, it's safe to assume that the game is going to include swords and shields, which other details can be extrapolated from that. I mean, we can assume that any game including swords and shields is going to be some kind of medieval setting, but other than that, there's not much to go off of. Now, I do like this artwork because the letters in Zelda look like they're made of stone or something like that, and the detail on the sword and shield is really nice. Like, you can see nicks and scratches on the sword and the shield, and that's pretty cool. That's a lot of detail they really didn't have to put in. I really do like this artwork, but I can't help but wish there was more to it. Although, it's easy to forget that sometimes less is more. Sometimes simplicity is the better route. But I'm going to give this one a good middle of the road. It's good. It's not as bad as the original Legend of Zelda, but it's not as good as some of the later entries. But with that, we're going to move on to game number 2. So here we have the Wind Waker disc. Now, I really like this disc because it's kind of one of those rare discs that's a solid color instead of having half of it be black. And on top of that, it's all gold. It reminds me of the old cartridges. And it's got this Hylian text on it. Now, I haven't went through the trouble of trying to decipher that. I'm sure somebody can do that. But either way, it's kind of cool. It lends itself to the Zelda sort of atmosphere. I like the reflective nature of the title. The fact that it's got the King of Red Lions there is really nice. Although, again, I feel like this disc is lacking in comparison to some of the other games. And as much as I like this disc, I can't think of much else to say about it. So, we're going to move on. Alright, up next is Majora's Mask. This particular cartridge is the special edition with the 3D label. So as I move the camera around, you'll see things kind of shifting on the label, which is cool, but unfortunately it does not agree with my camera too well, so it's a little difficult to see. However, I really like this label art for a Zelda game, because not only does it show Link swinging a sword, carrying a shield, it's got a lot of detail in the background. You can't really make out, but it creates the atmosphere that is almost synonymous with Majora's Mask. This sort of darker atmosphere than previous entries in the Zelda. And also, Majora's Mask just kind of peeking out from behind the Z has always kind of slightly unnerved me. But it's awesome. I love it, and the fact that it's a gold cartridge doesn't hurt either, because those are rare. And that's about all I have to say about this cartridge. It's great, and it's still one of my favorite Zelda games to this day. Maybe not number 1, but definitely top 5. Anyway, moving on. So now we're looking at Four Swords Adventures. And again, we have another disc label that I really like. It shows the 4 links, they're carrying swords, plus the title art itself looks really nice with the way it reflects light. On top of all that, it's kind of an unusual color for a Zelda disc. Most of them are gold or something like that. This one's green. Sort of a bluish green, but it looks green to me anyway. But I like it. For some reason I like it. It stands out, and that's a good thing. They didn't go over the top with too much detail, but it added enough to just make this disc look really nice. That's all I gotta say, so we're gonna move right along. Alright, Alright, so up next we have Zelda 2, the only numbered sequel in the franchise, also known as The Adventure of Link, and this game's kind of special to me because it is one of the very first games that I can remember playing. It was this and Super Mario Bros. That I played the most as a youngster. But memories aside, let's talk about the label. Now, I do like this label a little bit better than Zelda 1, mainly because there's a sword on it, and that gives you a decent idea of what the game's going to be like. This sequel to the original Zelda has another almost sequel to the tagline on the original one, and it says, "Another journey of ultimate challenge in the fantasy world of Hyrule." And the original Zelda said, "Experience the challenge of endless adventure." Now, despite the fact that I like this better than Zelda 1, it's not much better than that, because, again, there's not much going on the label. It's just a sword, but I still like this one a lot, just because, that sword is very, very intricate, immaculate, probably impractically heavy, but still it looks cool. Another interesting thing is this is like the only game that doesn't use the title, The Legend of Zelda. It just calls it Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, which is interesting to me. Now, this game is brutally difficult and poorly designed and just not everything that Nintendo wanted it to be, but despite all that, it still has a special place in my heart, and I think Zelda 2 is worth appreciating for a lot of the staples of Zelda that didn't show up until Zelda 2, like towns and NPCs that you could actually interact with, outside of walking into a room and seeing text on the floor, like the original Legend of Zelda. But before I ramble about this game for too long, I'm gonna cut myself off here, and we're gonna move on to the next game. Twilight Princess. Another one of my favorite Zelda games. But the disc, there's a lot to talk about. Actually, there's not, and that's the problem. Like, you can see Link's face over there, and it's gold like, Wind Waker. But unlike Wind Waker, it's got the black part on the bottom, and there's not much detail to the title art. It doesn't even show like the wolf thing that shows up in the regular title art. So, I don't know, this one feels lazy in comparison to Wind Waker. On top of that, the artwork of Link is very, very unclear. It's muddy and murky. It's hard to really make out what's going on the disc. It's okay, but I think they could have done a better job. Like, maybe they could have put the wolf Link on one side or something. I don't know. But, yeah, this is probably my least favorite so far, but I do want to take a moment just to appreciate the artwork that's on the instruction booklet. Like, that's beautiful. Why couldn't they make the disc look somewhat like that? I would have been pleased. But I'm going to stop complaining because this is actually a pretty good game, despite some glaring issues, and we're going to move on. Alright, so our last game is Ocarina of Time, the Master Quest version for GameCube. I'll be honest, I wanted to include Ocarina of Time in an earlier N64 cartridge appreciation. Unfortunately, my N64 copy of Ocarina of Time is in really, really rough shape. It still works just fine, but the label art has got someone's writing all over it, and it's like partially torn, so I don't even want to show it. But I did want to show this disc because, honestly, this is beautiful. I love the fact that they didn't just go with another gold disc. The red flames look really, really cool. The fact that they've got the Master Sword and the Hylian Shield behind the Z is awesome, and it looks really good when it reflects light. I will say that I wish there was a little bit more detail to it, as usual, and I wish they just said screw the black thing at the bottom and just let the flames carry all the way across the disc. But all in all, I like this one a lot. It's probably my favorite Legend of Zelda disc. Then again, I really like the Four Swords Adventures one as well. It's a hard choice, but we'll get to that when we get to the rankings, which I guess we'll do right now. So, my favorite artwork from this set of games is Majora's Mask. Number 2 is Four Swords Adventures. Number 3 is Ocarina of Time. Number 4 is A Link to the Past. Number 5 will go to Wind Waker. Number 6 is Zelda 2. And bringing up the rear is Twilight Princess. And that's it. So, thank you everybody so much for watching. As always, take it easy, and I will see you next time.